Good evening, good evening, good evening. 7 o'clock in Belize City. I am G. Michael Reid, reminding you that we have taken up residence on Wednesdays once again. Thank you for joining us. This is our weekly podcast. We call this the Sea Smoke Show because when you see smoke, you know there's fire. We're expecting our co host this evening, Joe Jose Cowie. He's been in the political arena for years and years and brings a wealth of knowledge, if not a little bit of bias, because you know he's on the blue side of things, where once I ventured for a while. I like to think I am more independent at this point, just walking the line in the middle, in between the lines, read between the lines, if you will. A couple of things happen in the country. The teachers are getting ready to strike on Friday. Well, they're demonstrating. I don't think it's a strike as such. The government has insisted that schools must remain open. There will be no free day for the students. Teachers are going, but their classes will remain open. I don't know how that's going to work. With the teacher present, there's a problem. Now the teachers are going to be absent. The students are going to be there. Uh, the monkeys are going to be watching the zoo. We're not going. I don't want to put that kind of analogy there and talk about our children like that, but just a figure of speech. The inmates are watching the asylum, if you will. Uh, to put it a little better, though still treading on shaky ground there. Let's first of all look at why they are demonstrating. And you know, whenever it seems the union, the teachers' union, also have the public service behind them, and a couple of the other unions, which is kind of like reason for the government to sit up and take notice. This has brought down more than one government. Certainly in Belize, when the unions get antsy, things get finicky. The unions are not happy because the government, by order of the CABSEC, who gave himself a raise and then gave all the other CEOs, who are basically political appointees, no level of experience in whatever department they're heading is necessary for that job. They are there, in the words of Joe Cowie, to do the bidding of the government, the minister, to make sure the political party achieves what they have set out in their manifesto as their course of action. So they're the watchdogs, if you will, for the political parties. They make, as it is, a nice amount of money, a tidy sum. When you see Chester going from commissioner of police, which is a nice paying job, to a CEO, which is a raise, actually, they're thinking it's not as much responsibility, so that's why they figure it's a step down. But he's going to make more money. He's not going to have access to the media and to the many interviews, etc., unless drastic things occur in that industry. The transportation industry, only bus catch fire every now and again, an accident, but you're not going to see like what's happening with the police. Right now, new commissioner, Dr. Rosado, is on the hot seat. Uh, 3 murders in what, 2 days? And you know, I wonder sometimes if we don't overreact. You look at many other big cities around the world, not that Belize can match with the population, but many of those cities have a lot of murders on a regular basis. The difference is the media does not pick every little mishap and blow it out of proportion. I was seeing a headline: murder out of control. You know, these guys have their beef. No, really, no full knowledge of what exactly triggers it most of the time. And sometimes, if you would get the true understanding of what is going on, you would maybe even understand why it is going on. They play rough in that realm. They don't respect each other as they should in many instances. They play close to the edge, and sometimes they get pushed over. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's nice to live with. I'm just saying maybe we ought not to give it so much attention. Now, the teachers are going to be demonstrating because of the raise in pay that the CEOs have gotten. The CEOs again make a lot of money, and again they're not super qualified for whatever department they're heading. They are in place of the permanent secretaries who used to come up through the system, get to the top, and then lord over the department. That is not the case anymore. The CEO is appointed from a political pool of sycophants, if you will, and I put in head of the department. They might not know anything about that department that they're heading. I would have wanted to see the teachers and the union say, no, we don't approve of that loan, that raise. We don't think you should be getting a raise in these times when we're being told we have to tighten the belt. Tariffs are coming online. Um, Donald Trump is bringing on some problems for the whole world. We have to be preparing ourselves for a tough road ahead, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not. Be assured that the run-ins will not be so smooth for a while to come. We need to prepare ourselves and giving ourselves big raises. People who are already making lots of money. Let's look at the cabinet secretary himself. What's Leslie? This guy, and his name eludes me at this point. But he has been there for a number of administrations. In fact, he started out with the PUP, I believe, and went through the UDP. The amount of money these guys make give them the leverage of some savings if you're not just spend thrift like that. If you not just want to go spend crazy. Because first of all, they get a lot of allowances, perks if at the office, if you will, um, gas, phone, rent. I know, I've seen it. Then that mean that salary going on in bank account just sit down there, no? Unless they really they spend it wrong, they squander it and they spend it wrong, which many of them don't do. So compare that now with one of the city council workers on the street. Minimum wage is $5 an hour. Some people make that. That's $40 a week. Uh, $5 a day, $200 a week. Seriously, people, these CEOs make maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 times that amount. If you were going to expect those workers at that level to be happy with that and satisfied to the point where they don't do anything wrong, because they do anything wrong, you're going to send in a jail. Then the CEOs must be satisfied with what they're getting, man. In particular, when we're not in a time of plenty. Can the government show us where they are flush with cash, to use the term made famous by the previous Prime Minister, Dean Oliver Barrow? Are we flush with cash to the point where we can just throw money like this? Now, again, the unions are saying, then get GIWI for we one also. You promised us this, we do it. We've increments frozen for too long. I understand that. And the increments that you're supposed to get. Um, and I would have preferred to have seen them say, that's it. And we're not going to support that raise. You can't roll that back, rescind that, if you will. But to say, oh, it's all right, you get it, but give us ours also. I don't like that. I don't like that approach at all because it's kind of selfish. It's like, well, forget everybody else. I mean, we are right with you getting your raise CEO, but make we get for we want to. And I'm like, that's kind of like I don't know. You want the support of the public in this one also, and I think the public on a whole is outraged at seeing these political appointees getting money and making as much as they do, and then getting raised on top of that for what? What's the justification? Because of the cost of living, then the teachers are not only right, but everybody else out there. Again, I got buy tamales today and they're not 350 anymore, they're four. Every time you go somewhere, dollar water, they're not dollar anymore. They're 125 and 150 and 175 in some places. Coconut water, they're not $2 and $5 and $15 again. They're $3, $6 and $18. Coconut oil, they're not $12 again, they're $18. Now, these are not prices where I just pull out my rear. These are prices that I have witnessed going to the market myself. You come to Ghana market one time, and I used to applaud this point. Going to the market with $20 and come home with 2, 3 bag of brimming over and still got it change. Not so. You lucky. In fact, you might come with one watermelon and one banana. But all a lot of groceries and fruits and things because everybody is going up. Lime, dollar for one. Plantain, $1 for one. People, it's rough out there. It's not, I don't know, a joke, And for people who are not making a lot of money, it's, I mean, cruel. The ones who are making a lot of money and can afford it, man, this is another time for one to grab more. Really. One have to satisfy if the little man making a little bit has to be satisfied with what they have, you need to be satisfied. I see Christopher Robert Broster pop up on the screen. Are you there? Your mic is muted, but what
Yes, yes, good night. Yes,
all right,
I'm here.
you don't want to show your shirt, shirt there. There you
No, no,
go.
no, no, no.
There you go.
Yes, I'm not here.
You were with us a couple of months ago, I believe, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
How have things progressed in your area there?
Well, things are going a little bit, it's getting there. I could say, it's been a year now.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the fact that right now I've been doing a lot of my running lately, competing a lot, being active a lot. So right now we have the UB Relathon that is coming up this Friday, May the 9th. It's a annual year. It's going to be the 48th year, and this year's Relathon, the males will be running from the Crooked Tree Junction through Boom Road to Belmont, and the girls will be running from the City to Belmont. So we're getting prepared. We're there. It's
That
it's
a
gonna
long run though. Have you ever done that run
it's a
before?
it's a mile relay race whereby each person gets to run a
Oh,
mile. So it's a
okay.
mile. It's a
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
it's a
that sounds
yes.
better because that crooked tree to build upon. I'm thinking you have to left pretty early
Yes,
in the
exactly.
morning.
yes, it will be early in the morning to reach. So
Yeah. How are you gonna work that? Because the teachers are gonna be demonstrating in Belmopan on
no, no.
Friday.
I it doesn't really apply to UB because UB, most of the staffs and faculties will be assisting with the relaton. So
So
that
they're not
is
gonna be supporting the demonstration in Belmopan, as far as you know. They're not a part of it. Do you do you know? Do you guys have you guys discussed it in school? What is going on and why
as much
they're
as
going out?
yes, all of that has been happening, and yes, the unions, the BNTU has voted to do a demonstration this Friday, but apparently there is nothing from the UBFSU if they will be participating. All I know is that I heard that the PSU and the BNT will be out there, but there has not been much of any discussions if the UBFSU will be in attendance. So,
How does that work? Because you have the teachers union and you have teachers at UB. Are the teachers at UB not a part of that body, the unions of teachers, if you will, or even
because the
public
University of
servants?
Belize has they have a union at UB, which is the UBFSU, the
Okay.
UBFSU, and so far I will say that we don't really hear much of them of lately. Um, but probably some might support, but at this point right now, we're not really hearing
Do you have
from
a
the
student body? You
Yes,
do
we
have a
do.
student body, don't you?
Yeah,
Are
we
you
do.
are you a part of that?
No,
All right.
unfortunately, I am finished with UB, so
Or you're not
um,
attending classes anymore, but you're still a part of the alumni, I imagine.
yes.
Okay. Are you what gainfully employed at this point, or just taking a
Um,
sabbatical?
well, just like being assistant with anything like maybe sports mostly,
Okay.
so all of
And
that
what
at the
what
moment.
are the plans for Christopher stepping into the future from here? I mean, what are you? What's the goal? Are you seeing something that you are going to pursue?
Well, the future for me is that yes, I still have not given up the fact of still trying to be part of the leadership of our country to, step up and to try and make changes that we're seeing a lot because a lot of issues has been going lately and but however, it's up to again, it's up to society, but at the end of the day, we all have our parts to play at this point. And so right now, as much as I'm done with school, hoping to pursue law, hopefully, whenever the time is right to pursue it and then to start. But right now, I'm doing a lot of running, but at the same time, doing community outreaches, you know, get feedback from society, and it's the issues is there, and you know, there's a lot that needs to be dealt with, but you know,
Do you
it's
have
a process.
you still have your eyes on the political arena? Then I imagine,
Yes,
and
yes, it is.
and becoming a lawyer first of all. Um, you're going to study law or not?
Yeah, I'll be son-in-law.
You is being a lawyer a precursor to being a politician? You think does it help? We know lawyers are trained in manipulating facts and making a strong case out of no case. The political arena now, while we've seen a lot of lawyers going into it, they're almost I don't know if they go hand in hand. I I think that you're one different breed you're needing a politics, don't you think? Or you don't see any kind of conflict?
Well, the thing is, I know when it comes to like lawyers, when you look at it this way, as a politician, because for me, for instance, with a bachelor's of history, I'm qualified. That is like one aspect I already have, because then with a degree in history, I know the history of my country to an extent. Lawyers know, because you're studying law. That is another important aspect, because with that degree, you're knowing that you know the law, and that you, but then the issue is the point of upholding that law, because a lot of people study law. Yes, they might know the laws or everything, but the question implies, for people who are aspire to be politicians, if they are upholding the laws that they are learning, because that is another thing. That is where integrity comes into place. And it's a big question that sometimes is very rare or hardly being spoken of. But from that perspective, it does go hand in hand. But at the same time, is if it is being, I could say, utilized in the proper positive way in this case. And then you got others like business management, and those, be able to know what it's like to like maintain finances, because like, especially for a prime minister position, Ministry of Finance, you have to have like some level of knowledge in terms of budgeting, managing of finance across every single thing. So
I
that is
I
the
I I might be too sarcastic on this, but I'm thinking integrity, lawyer, integrity. I don't I don't know that they go hand in hand. Listen, let's welcome Joe to the show, and hi Suzanne. Suzanne saying good night. Suzanne, you have to jump on every now and again when you're ready, and tell you why I send that link. Jojo, how's it going, bro?
Well, nice being here again with you all. I'm listening to the Christopher Robert Brostow.
You remember Christopher was on earlier, about a year or so ago now, Christopher. It's quite a few months, and he had expressed some desire to go into the political arena. He's done with UB, still doing the athletics and whatnot, the running and whatnot, but looking to the looking to Capitol Hill to climb that hill and be a part of the governing committee of Belize. I wish you well. I we need we need young minds. We hope that you keep growing, keep studying, keep reading, and partly you're going into law. Um, yeah, lawyers don't have the reputation again, but you can make that change. You're young
yeah,
and strong enough to do it. Yeah.
definitely. But again, it all comes down to everybody is individually, like, we all have to have the same common aspiration of working together. We have to pull aside the differences, pull aside the division that is being implemented in the system currently. And once we able to come together and put aside all those things, we can see change and progress. So it all starts with each and every one.
If you would put your finger on one of those divisions that you think is really affecting us, that you'd like to maybe see a bridge, uh, would you? How would you respond to that? What would you say that one of those divisions that's really holding us back as a nation?
Well, I would say one of the divisions will be, I would say, classism, because one of the things that we're seeing is that, and for instance, you did mention about that those in the CEO positions getting bigger raise to those that are still at the bottom that can't receive maybe a little few things. You know, I think maybe in those divisions whereby, if you want that the whole country to be stable and everything, I think there should be an balance and inequality amongst how each of those people from all divisions, no matter if you're way at top or way at bottom, that they are able to receive an equal but at the same time a more respectable share in terms of the resources. And but that is just one of the things though.
I hear you, Joe. Where they talk about, we were talking earlier about the raises for the CEO. Me and we have had the discussion about CEOs and their worth and reasons for being there. The unions and the teachers getting ready to demonstrate in Belmopan on Friday, and the reason is that they're against the raise that the Cabsec has given himself and his band of CEOs. Um, yeah, are you up on it? Have you been following it?
Well, I have my own concerns about CEOs because of the way we have subverted the public sector. And I say subverted in the sense that we removed the permanent secretaries, which should have been there still. And then the CEOs were to be the political animals. That was the term used in the public sector reform for parliament, for Commonwealth countries. So I think that when we bring CEOs in and we actually remove the permanent secretaries, I thought that that was a terrible mistake because the job description is what is important.
Mhm.
And once you have a job description, then you can develop a job profile. Now, ask yourself, well, what is the job description of a CEO? And if you ask anybody in the public sector, from the prime minister down, if you do not have a permanent secretary, it is evident that your CEO is to replace it. And a CEO cannot and should not be allowed to replace a permanent secretary because they come out of two different molding.
Right.
So to me, for the unions to in fact be objecting to increases for CEOs is not so much the issue. To me, the issue is more that whether they should be CEOs replacing permanent secretaries and whether they do qualify to be what they claim to be. And that to me should have been a more legitimate concern of the unions. Now,
I
mhm.
go ahead.
Now the truth about it is that if you arrive at increasing these salaries for CEOs, when in fact it has been said long time now that they are not to be what you want them to be because they cannot. So obviously it can be offending to public officers, including teachers, who might in fact feel that there are some entitlements that is still in a backlog. In other words, there are things that they are entitled to and should have been given already. But true to some administrative public sector liturgy, they have not received it. So that's one issue that they are protesting about. Secondly, I think they are looking to also claim that they need salary adjustment. And I think they use the adjustment appropriately. They are not asking for salary increase. Some say salary increase, but those who are more knowledgeable of what they're asking for salary adjustments. All unions all over the world have a clause in their bargaining agreement for what they call salary adjustments. Adjustments means that if after the second year, most of them say, well, after the 2 years, you have had a cost of living increase, what they call the CO, the COLA, the COLA, cost of living adjustments. It means that if the cost of living went up, my purchasing power went down. Therefore, built into every bargaining agreement is an adjustment. And I think that's what the union is saying, that they have a right to an adjustment now.
I hear you, and I hear you saying that you think that the bigger issue should be the CEOs being there replacing the PS. I get that. Um, Also, that they're asking for adjustments. I don't know. I think the bigger issue would be the increase given to the CEOs because the teachers are not saying no, we wouldn't want you to give them that increase, which we don't think they deserve, but we want ours too. Then give us a raise also, or an adjustment, if you want to call it that. Give us the increments that were frozen. Give us what we're supposed to get, because you obviously have enough to be giving the CEOs a raise. I get that, but I would prefer for them to say, no, you know what? The way we are now, we're not flush with cash. Let's not give anybody a raise right now. Make we tighten the bill and see how we can work out what we have. The common man on the street that's making $5 an hour, he's not getting any raise, and the cost of living is going up for him too. He has less purchasing power with the little bit that he's getting. I have a problem with that. And I don't know if that's too outlandish for anybody to look at and agree with, but I am not. I would hope that they don't give those increases to the CEOs. I would hope that the CABSEC would come to his senses and realize, men, why they do ya, could start an avalanche of problems. Because once the unions and the teachers start rumbling and grumbling, why I don't know. It usually turns into an avalanche of unrest, don't you think?
Well, where I have my difference with it is that I don't think that the union legitimate demand for adjustment is because of the CEOs getting it. I think they're supposed to be separated. In other words, if in your judgment you don't think that the job description of the CEOs deserve that kind of income, that salary, then that's an issue that you can take up, evidently, based on your comparative inputs. No, your concern evidently must be that could be one of your concerns. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but your concern should be: do I is there a justification for adjustment for my income? And I would say that their union has a justification based on the COLA aspect of bargaining agreements. That if my budgeting power has gone down due to cost of living, I would expect that there will have to be some adjustments. That salary increase, you see, the salary increase is different from salary adjustments. If I'm adjusting your salary to bring it in line with your purchasing power back,
There's still an increase.
no,
I mean,
in technical terms,
are you gonna get less?
no, in technical terms,
Ho
it's
ho
not,
ho! Are you gonna get less, Joe?
no, no, you are using
No.
it. No,
Ho ho ho!
no,
Are
what?
you gonna get
Yeah,
less?
but that's not an
No
argument you
man,
use.
no man, no man, no man, no man. That either one increase or less.
No, but there's a difference, Jim. Like, if you allow me to explain it, you will understand it. Trust me, you will. If you are giving me most of these bargaining agreements with unions and employers, they have a clause in it for adjustment of income, which is different from a salary increase.
But it is an increase, does it not?
Yes, no, no, it's not an increase in the sense of purchasing power. It's an increase in the absolute sense of a dollar figure. In the absolute sense, it is an increase. But in the bargaining agreements with unions and employers, it is an adjustment for purchasing power due
All
to
right, let's call it adjustment. Let's call
no,
it
no, because
adjustment.
that is legally what you're supposed to be arguing for.
Right, right, right. Let's call it adjustment.
It is.
None of this was on the table. None of this was being discussed until it was made known that the CAPSEC and his CEOs were getting salary increase. Then the teacher stood up and said, "Hold on a minute. You to get salary increase, what happened to we? And once we get, we'll be happy." But I don't. Again, I really would have hoped that they would have said no salary increase, um, and then lobby for their own interests, apart from the fact that the CEOs are getting an increase, because they're linked together. And yes, you're telling me, well, it's not an increase that they want, or adjustment of salary, which amongst to an increase, whether they want to call it that or not, and all of it comes out of the public coffers. We are going to have to pay that increase. I don't know Oh, no magic out of nowhere. We're not getting grant from any foreign aid. This are money that's going to come out of what, the consolidated funds.
Yeah, but there is arguments that might not necessarily have to be so. But I listened to the news tonight. I was a little delayed because of the same issue we were discussing. I am a supporter of unions. I support workers. I have been members of the union. I've been member of the PSC. I was uppermost in the leadership of the PSC. So I support unions. I do strongly. But I feel somehow that the new leadership of the unions apparently are not as mature as the guys, them like the palacios of the past. I believe that the union should sit around that table with the employer, the government. Now let us put our issues on this table. The extent to which is administrative lethargy, you need to address that now. Because the workers cannot be victims of administration lethargy. They have to address it. No, that's one of the concerns they have. That's because of entitlements that have not yet been given to them due to the administration not having done what needs to be done for them to be paid. So I think that's a matter that should be settled now. Now, when you come to the issue now of the adjustment, now, yes, let we discuss adjustment for the workers. Let us come to the table now and agree that one, we deserve an adjustment under the COLA sections of the agreements. Now, what will the adjustments be? That will be the issue now. For first of all, we agree that you are entitled to an adjustment of your pay, your income. So the next issue now that what will it be? Because you don't have nothing in the agreement specifically to measure what that increase should be. You will have to know then what is the cost of living increase over the period, and then try to make that adjustment to bring back your purchasing power. So let's say that what $10 was able to buy then, if it's £5 of rice, whatever it is, what you are saying was, listen, $10 cannot buy that again. So I might need $15 to buy it. I just to throw that out. So what you are saying, boy, I need an increase to bring back my purchasing power. Now we can work that out because that's part of the agreement. And to me, once we finish with that and we do the adjustment, I am not hearing them asking for any salary increase. Technically speaking,
I think that 8% then they ask for.
all right. So if it is 8%, that 8% must represent what they believe is the percentage to bring back their purchasing power.
Uh, you know, you said something about the current leadership of the unions not being as mature as the Palacios and the older guys, maybe Jazz Frazier and then one day. However, if you listen to the news tonight, I heard the union leaders saying that they tried to sit around the table, that they sent communiques to the ministry, to the people in charge, and they received absolutely no response. That they have been trying to dialogue for some time. How do you sit around the table with people who not pay you no mind?
My suggestion to them would have been this: I will make you know clearly that these are the things I ask you for us to meet on. And if you keep, I will give you a time within which we could. I don't think that the government, and in fairness to the government, I don't believe the government have ever said that they are not prepared to meet and sit with them. I don't think the government has done that.
Well, if you don't give a response, what are you saying, Joe?
So I think they have given a response.
You
I don't
think
think that.
that? So you think the
I don't think that.
leaders? You think the union leaders are lying on
No, I'm
TV?
not saying that they are lying.
Well, they have to be one way or the other,
I
sir.
have never heard. I listened to the Minister of Public Service this morning because it was just yesterday. Yesterday, I think at a cabinet meeting, they finally agreed that he must represent now the cabinet in the discussions with the union. So it was this morning. Now he can speak because now he is appointed by the Prime Minister to meet with the unions and begin to get discussions going. I am saying then that calling these demonstrations so frequently and meetings which we have to look at the cost benefit of that. Because every time you're having these meetings, for example, I am supporting the union, I always supported unions. But if you tell me that you need to have a meeting of the public of the BNTU as teachers, so you want a day off. But when you have that day off, children are being denied their education, they are being denied their teaching. But we just come out of an Easter vacation. If they were so much interested in getting what they want and they need to have a meeting of them, why didn't they take the time off during the Easter vacation so that the
I don't know
children?
if that's fair, though, Joe. I don't know if
Ah,
that's fair. It would certainly would not have had the effect.
no,
They need effect.
I
They're
am
not.
saying to you what I think is fair. For you, it might not. I am saying that if I am sincere in telling you that we will meet now as a union, but because if we meet, we will not be able to go to school and the children will be denied a day. I am saying, no, as a teachers, I am prepared to take a day out of my vacation for us to meet. I think you will have more support.
Oh,
No,
you're talking about meeting with the government and
no, no,
meeting
no,
with the
no,
officials.
no, 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 no,
You mean about the demonstration?
no, no, no. What happened? They were having meetings. The BNTU was having meeting right across the country
Right,
in different areas because they have
right,
their branches.
right,
And they were meeting and then they will collate that to find out whether the decision.
right.
No, when they were doing that, it means that the schools had to be closed, meaning the children come but no teaching.
When
I
did this happen, though, Joe? That did not happen.
Yes, man. I was talking with one of the teachers just 2 3 days ago.
That they were not giving classes
It,
because.
yes, and she's telling me, he said, Mr. Koye, I am supporting what we are doing because I think we are entitled to it. He said, but I believe we should have done it during when there was the vacation for us. So we do not have to have the children out of school. And I believe that was a good point she was making. I think you will win the sympathy more of the people out here to know that you, the teachers, prepared to take a day out of your Easter vacation and have for a meeting then,
Joe,
rather than do it
Joe,
during the period when. Ah,
let me get this clear.
Actually, Mr. Koye, you actually have a good point because then if you look at it now that they are going to do this demonstration, right? No, this is a period now that their students are doing exams and everything. So
exactly.
the impact of that will affect the children in this case because then it will delay what will have been the time now for them to finish or preparation, especially those taking CSEC, those that are doing exams and so forth. It will have a huge impact. So I think what Mr. Koi said, I think that if they have done this more in their Easter vacation break, it will have been a best fit.
It'd have been best for who? Certainly would not been effective, and that's what you're missing.
No,
If you're gonna have an action like this, you want full effect. You cannot go during the Easter vacation and do some kind of exercise like this. Nobody's gonna pay you any mind. Everybody else is on vacation also.
no, Mr. Chairman, you are missing the point. This had nothing to do with the public observation. This had to do with meetings of the union throughout the country. This
Okay,
had nothing to do.
but hold on, Christopher, is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Because
yes, that's what
there
Christopher.
have been no school closures because of those meetings. There
Yes,
will be a school day tomorrow, Friday, where there will be a demonstration in Belmopan. Um,
Yes,
now,
what happened is that the minister did announce that while the unions will demonstrate that classes to remain open, which
right?
is yes, they
How is
did
that gonna
send
work?
out that
How is that
memo.
gonna work?
That
How
will
is
have to
that gonna
be
work, Christopher?
well from what I will see from thing, it will have to be up to what the parents have to say because right now the parents have to decide with all that is happening like whether or not they should send school. Because even if the parents do decide to send their child to school and let's say majority teachers are absent in supporting the demonstration, then obviously you can't let the child just to go to school Friday. And then I know some students will definitely will rather stay home than, to go to a class and maybe show up with no teachers or nobody in a classroom. So I think, this one will have to be highly decided on the parents and even the students themselves because but then with the fact that with exams and everything, I think it will be it will be strongly recommended that the because I know the unions is support BNTO, but like probably like the classes, especially those in fourth form, like the teachers in fourth form, I would recommend that they should remain to help the students get through with them, and then the rest can go in support. That's just my 2 cents on it.
But let me give you my 1 cent, which might be at least valuable. Whenever I have been way up in the PSU union for 20 years as a public officer. In fact, I have walked the line for Teamsters in the US. So I've been and worked with the Teamsters in America for 5 months. Now, whenever anybody, whether they're the union, whether they're a political party, whether they're a mass movement, you always must act in a way where you have the support of the people with you. What the teachers want is the support of the parents, the support of the community at large to support their cause. What this teacher said to me made good sense. He said, Mr. Koi, I did not go to the meeting because I felt that we should have done it during the Easter vacation. And he picked up her phone and he called the parents and tell their children, come to class, I will be there. So here was a teacher, to me, making good sense. If we want the support of the teachers, I mean the parents, we want the support of the community at large, you too must be prepared that if you want to have meetings of your unions, have it on a day when it does not disrupt the teaching of the children, because you want their support. Now, having said that, one of the things I support the union in what they are asking for. But when you are in unionism, do not intimidate your employer. What you do, you come around the table and you use negotiations. And when you reach the point where you believe the employer become unreasonable, dogmatic, don't want to move, nowhere move you. And when you make that move, that because you go out there now, and the teachers, the parents, and everybody will be with you. And then the government have to respond. Well, put it this way, whoever the employer is. The
Yeah.
same thing you do in the private sector, you will do in the public sector. When I believe that we have given you every opportunity to make us sit around the table and in a civilized way, let's work out the differences. But I must make sure that I have the parents, the community at large supporting me. And one of the way, if the teachers had gone and used their vacation to have their union meetings and not deny the children their education, it would have been helped. I am not in any way saying it diminishes what I believe is their entitlement. But when you are fighting causes, any mass movement, whether the church, whether the political parties, whether the unions, mass movements have to bear in mind that they need the support of the people.
Did that teacher that you spoke to, was she happy? He or she, whether male or female, were they happy with the situation as it exists? I mean, they were to the point where they weren't going to that meeting because it was held during class hours. You're saying I didn't get that from the discussions I heard over the media. I got that they had decided that they were going to have a demonstration, and they sent out the notice to the students, to the teachers. But I hear the principal saying also that the teachers don't have a right to tell the children there will be no class, that they have a right to go and demonstrate. But the schools, the government says the schools will remain open. I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work.
Let me tell you how it will work. Let me tell you how it will work. It will work against the students. Why is it that you want to tell me come to class and there will be no teaching? What will I do? I am saying, Mr. Chairman, that I am a supporter of the workers. Workers of the world unite then. That's called Marx, no? I support workers. But when we are workers, we have to be responsible and we have to act in ways that we do not offend the innocent. These
Who would you suggest are the innocent now?
the
The
students
employers?
no, the students who term is coming to an end and now more than ever they need their school. They need to go to school. So therefore, when that sacrifice have to be made, that the students will not get that teaching, it must be that that cost will outweigh by the benefit of what the teachers will do. But simply to go out there and intimidate to get what you think you will get, you are acting prematurely. When you make that move, that because when I make that move, that because the government got the employer got to bend, no, you want bend and you want give me what we ask for. And now the students want sacrifice with you, the parents want sacrifice with you. Because if they want to agree that man, you have tried, you did everything, and they are not listening to you. So will they support you now? That's what unions are about, Mr. Chairman.
Now, Joe, tell me how much is everything? Really, when you say they're gonna say you did everything. The teachers and the unions are saying we have tried to talk to the government. We have sent all the necessary uh, um, papers, communiques, whatever we need to send. They have not responded to us. They are not telling us anything. Now they come and give this raise to the CEOs. We believe it's time for them to listen. They are trying to force the government to come to the table with this action. Now they can't do this during the holidays. They have to get full effect from it. You're trying to tie their hand, and I don't think that's fair.
No, I don't think you're understanding me, Mr. Chairman. Let
Well,
me.
but just because I don't agree with you, don't mean I don't understand you.
No, I think if you understand me, I believe you may still disagree with me, but I prefer you disagree with me when you understand me. What I am saying is this. Do you know for a fact that the government has been totally indifferent and ignoring them?
I know. Well, that
Is
is
that
what
so?
I know. What they have said on the news.
Who
I
said
don't
that?
see them getting up there in line like that. That's what I'm saying.
I listened to the former Minister of Education, Francis Fonseca,
Uh-huh.
and I hold great regards for him. I'm not saying no, I do the same for everybody. I will be quite candid and honest with you. It's not because you're a politician, I will have that negative feeling about you. I am no victim of Oscar Wilde thinking. I believe that when those on the other side, as we call them, are in fact prepared to sit and try to work these things out in sincerity, but found some obstacles, like the case of the administration. The reason why those teachers have not gotten their entitlements, because they are entitled to it, ask yourself why they didn't get it. Some things that they should have gotten. Now, that I don't blame the government for. And the reason why I would blame them is because it's true that if the administrators fail to do what they were supposed to do, then deal with them. Move them if you have to. Because it's not fair to the teachers. But to me, to suggest that the government totally been ignoring, it's not that they have been ignoring, it's just that they have not been agreeing. So therefore, if I were the union, I will make sure that when I call upon the parents to bear with us when we are close the schools, it's because now we're going out to get what we think we deserve. And rather than to be doing it off and on, having meetings, having demonstrations, denying the children education, I believe that there will come when you have gone and sit around that table, and then when you realize I have done everything I should do, now we're organized. And when we make that move, if we have to close the school for a day, 2 days, 3 days, they will be closed.
You say you listen to the minister, the former minister of education. Did you listen to the head of the teachers union and the PSU?
I did.
They,
In fact, I was listening to them more than I was listening to the government side because
and you heard them say that they did not get any kind of response from the government when they tried to sit and discuss this, or you did
no,
not hear that at all?
no, they didn't say that they didn't get any response. What was happening in the first instance, and I think that the teachers were right. There were things that they should have gotten, which they did not get when they should have gotten it. For example, they accepted that there were some increments that they had earned. They said had earned it and it belonged to them. The government did not say that they are not entitled to it. They accepted that they were entitled to it. But because of administrative lethargy, they did not get it.
Because of what? Administrative literacy?
No, I call it lethargy, laziness then.
Lethargy.
So
Okay.
let's use another word,
Yeah,
administrative inefficiency.
I see. Okay.
No,
The, on the part of the administration.
no, as a leader, an executive arm of the government, a minister, I would not have tolerated any administrative inefficiency that caused our workers to be denied their rights. I would have acted then immediately and moved them if I have to, and let the workers get what they're entitled to. And that is where I believe the government should have acted more aggressively, because the administrators who should have had these things ready to give them what were their entitlements, and if they didn't do it, then they must be penalized for it.
Yeah, I, you know, maybe we were listening to the wrong news. We weren't listening to the same newscast. I heard totally different. Um, Again, my point remains. I would have rather the teacher's point being no raise for no CEO or no cab sec because uno not deserve it. Now they were more give we for we raise too, and everything all right. All we get with money, no problem. Forget the people who are gonna be out there having to deal with these cost of living increases themselves with no help. You know,
That's
do
why
you see the point I'm making?
that's the point where they make, but I disagree with you. I'll tell you why. You know what one minister said one time? And this was a minister who was bold enough to tell you how he thinks and how he behaves. He said, you either cut me or you cut it out. You know
Exactly.
what you say? You say
Exactly.
you should tell the government, you either cut we in and give we free peace or don't
Uh-huh.
get the CEOs. That's a different issue, Mr. Chairman. If the CEOs were not deserving of it, then you'll use that as a different issue. But don't say that if they get it, then give it for you one too. Because what you just said that, all right, then get so give it too.
But
No, you
this
said,
is what
yeah,
I'm
but that is
saying.
yeah, but that's something that should what it will do. Obviously,
But what is your point? Because I'm saying that
my
is what
point,
I hear them saying.
yes, because
And your point is that I shouldn't be saying that. I should not have heard that,
no, no,
or
no,
you
no, no,
don't agree with that should be that way.
no. I'm not saying that. One, let me make it try get it clarity here. Let's first agree on what are the facts. You cannot have your own facts and I have my own. So we could say we have a facts. No, we could have different opinions about those facts, and that I could differ with you and the
You see how
opinion.
much time you spend to talk about facts and you know to talk about the fact that they matter. What exactly are you saying? What are the facts, Joe?
The facts are one that the union, from what I know and I understand and I heard, had an entitlement to increments that they should have gotten already. They
Correct.
have earned it. The government had not said that they should not get it. No,
Okay.
because of administrative inefficiency, they have not
Okay.
gotten it.
All
I
right.
am saying then something should be done to
Okay.
let them get that because they are entitled to that.
All right. That's a fact.
No, that's a fact. No,
Okay.
secondly, they are saying no, we need a adjustment because of cost of living, and it's about time we get an adjustment. No, we need to sit around the table and let's discuss that adjustment.
Okay.
I understand now, just since yesterday at a cabinet meeting, they agreed that they need to now meet with the union and begin to discuss the adjustments. And therefore, they appointed now the Minister of the Public Service Union will be a member of the group to now sit with them and let us discuss the adjustments. Now, what else other issue they have? Let's see if they have any more.
Has anything been said about the increases given to the CEO?
No,
Is there any facts
no,
involved in that?
let's deal with that because that has nothing to do with the union's demand that they are making. No,
Hold up 1 second. Susan is saying She doesn't think the government currently has the money to pay the teachers. It's not in the budget. How did they find the money to pay the CEOs? And this is what the teachers are saying that I could understand. Again, though, I don't think they should be bargaining from that point. They should be
Okay.
saying, we don't have the money. Let's not give these raises to these CEOs. They are already making a hell of a lot of money
Yeah, but no,
compared to what the average man is making out there in
yeah,
the street.
but here we are muddying the waters more. Let me try explain something what the lady put up there. Let me correct something that she said. You cannot say that the government doesn't have the money in the budget because we don't have a budget yet. We should have had a budget beginning the 1st of April. But the explanation was the election. So we can't say that the government doesn't have it in the budget because it's a fact. Because there's no budget. The minute you meet with the unions or whatever it may be, and there is a need for more money, and you agree, then you go for a supplementary. Then
Uh,
you meet that. That's the way you do. That's all.
Joe, you're an expert in finances. Let us forget the part about in the budget. And if the lady is saying she does not think the government has the money to pay the teachers, forget in the budget. Are you saying that you can't say that? That is not true. Are
Well,
we
I can say to you categorically
that they have it
and factually that that money can be had.
or they got the money? Okay.
No, no, I'm not saying they have it. I say it can be had.
Oh,
No, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Did
raise
not
taxes.
did not a minister said publicly, and I'm quoting somebody else who said they said it, and I'm not arguing with them. He said that 50% of the taxes are not being collected. Therefore, collect the tax and pay the teachers. So not that we don't have it. We
You
have it,
you
it just have
you
to collect it.
you you make that song. You really make that song like that. That's something where it's just easy for do. Um,
Mr.
why are they not being collected? Why 50% of the taxes? That's alarming.
Mr. Chairman, you know what I'm like on this show?
And from
A guy
who?
Horace Palacio. You know why? Let me show you something. I am repeating what was told to me, and when I checked with somebody else, they said yes, it was said. No, if you can tell me that we are put it at 40%, 30%, if you know that that is not being collected, then why are you not collecting it?
That's the question.
The question is this: you have an obligation to do it. Do it. You cannot tell me that the teachers have a right to a salary adjustment, but you don't have the money because you are not collecting the taxes. That's a self-indictment.
So if you don't have the money because you're not collecting the taxes, why do you feel like you can afford to give these CEOs that raise?
Yeah, but you see what you do, you the body the water in the sense
No,
that now
no,
that's a
but
separate
because you don't want the water,
now that's a separate matter. Mr. Chairman,
but you know that was started this whole thing, don't
Mr.
you?
Chairman, we are dealing with issues of principle and we are dealing with issues of absolute dollars. If we are giving an increase, let's say for the year of 100,000, just use that to CEOs. No, we have a give salary adjustment to all the workers, and that might be 5 million. Mr. Chairman, it's easier to find 200,000 to find 5 million, but that is not the issue. The issue is not the absolute dollar. You are dealing with a principle, you are
Joe,
dealing with fairness,
Joe,
and you are dealing with justice.
Joe, do you have any problem with the CEOs getting that raise?
I am coming back to tell you that I do not support the CEOs replacing permanent secretaries. I do not support it.
But why is it so difficult for you to just answer that straightforward, simple question?
It's
Why can't you just answer that one question, Joe?
because I am saying to you that if you give the job profile and the job description and justify it, then I could look at it. But you did not do that. So the union
What
in
are you
using
saying?
the,
What are you saying?
I am saying to you, Mr. Chairman. Do you know the job description of what is now called a CEO?
Basically, what the PS used to do.
No, they could
What?
never do that.
What? So what? What? You tell me then, since you know.
Because I am telling you, again, I'll repeat it. The CEOs, which was called executive officers,
Right.
is not a new thing to the public service. Who introduced it first in the public sector?
Joe, please not go through that,
All right, I
Joe,
believe it.
because we'll
You
try
have
to
to believe
deal
it
with
because you
our.
don't want the facts. You don't want the
No,
second.
no, you're not to give me facts. You the murky the water.
No,
We're
I am
talking
saying to
about
you,
a simple
I am
matter.
saying to you that CEOs,
What you say to me, simple.
I am saying to you that CEOs is the same thing that were called executive officers. And we had executive officers with permanent secretaries. We had both of them.
Joe, Joe,
That's all I'm saying to you.
do you believe that the CEO should be getting this raise?
Mr. Chairman, I do not think they should get it because I do not think that they fit the job description to replace a permanent secretary.
Okay, that's better. At least you make a stand. Because you run wrong and wrong and wrong, and that's the issue. Because at the
And
end of the
that is
day,
the issue, is that you are not
this is
familiar
what
with facts.
this is
Not
what
with the facts.
precipitated. This is what started the whole problem with the teachers and the unions. And I'm saying it shouldn't have. They deserve the increment. They deserve what they are asking for, I imagine, because they do a tough job. But to say, and which is exactly, you put it right, cut me in or cut it out. They're saying we don't, they're not like we not think you're supposed to get this raise, CEO. We believe that you keep that if you want, but make sure we get for we want. I find something a little selfish in that.
Well,
That's all I'm
I
saying.
wouldn't say selfish, it's worse than that. All I am trying to make you understand, I do not support the union in making it that if the CEOs got it, they must get it too.
Right.
The union must be more responsible and could have said, listen, we do not believe we should have CEOs replacing our permanent secretaries. No, you want CEOs? Give them the salary of what was supposed to be for CEOs with permanent secretaries as it was. The only difference, it was Esquivel, under his leadership, introduced the executive officers, which are CEOs, but he did not remove the permanent secretaries. He used them for exactly what they were intended to be in the reform for the Commonwealth countries. No, I was a PUP minister at the time, and I argued against removing the permanent secretaries and replace them with CEOs because that was not what was intended, and I still do not agree with it. I would have thought that what the union would have done was rather than say, cut me in or cut it out, was to say, listen, you are paying a group of people an amount of money when in fact the job description does not fit that kind of job profile for that amount of money. But for you to say that if they go get it, then we go get it too. So what you are in fact doing, you are diminishing your claim. But you are saying you're not interested in the waste, you're not interested in the structure of your public sector for efficiency and effectiveness. All you want to know that if the cronies could get it, then we could get it. In other words, you're
Exactly.
right to have the cronies, but you want to pay we too. That is
Well,
not a responsible way of dealing with the public sector or dealing with any institution.
with that on the with that segment there, we end on the
Yeah.
we're in agreement because I also believe that it would, but there's a little difference. I don't think the CEO is important at all or necessary. I think the PS could do everything, and if the CEO reports to the minister, the PS can also report to the minister. I don't see the need for two major salaries at a position where one can do.
I
That
see.
is my point.
Yeah, that's your opinion. My,
Yes.
my opinion is based upon the Commonwealth parliamentary study that was done for all these countries. And I was among them at the time. So I believe in what they were doing was the right thing. You needed CEOs, but the CEOs were what they call, and this is the term they use exactly in the document. They were to be the political animals.
Hmm. And
Now,
why do you need the political animal again?
because what they are saying is
What?
that,
No, 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 Joe. Not what they're saying.
and you
Tell
have to go
me,
by what they did, G Mike. That don't
yeah,
me create it. That don't me create it.
you the get like them Christians where they quote the Bible and every word we have to hinge on
I am
as
telling
truth.
you that they did it out of a meeting of the Commonwealth countries.
Right, and they were that
We
mean that
agree.
they were infallible. There's
No,
no
I'm not
way they
saying
could
that
have
I'm
made a
infallible.
mistake.
No, I am not saying that I'm infallible. I'm saying that I agree with it. That's all.
You
And
agree with it? You
yes,
agree with that? You think there should be a CEO in every ministry,
yes, along with
along with the PS.
that's right. That's what I'm saying.
To do what? What was the PS? What is the CEO supposed to do again?
All right, you may tell me. All right, I can try it again. You may tell me not say it. The permanent secretaries were to remain permanent secretaries, coming up through the rank and file with all. I don't want to go through the details with you because I don't take too long. Then you want to bring in, these are political appointments. The CEOs were to be political appointments. They come and go with the government of the day. They
And
were,
you need them for what?
you need them to be able to work along with the permanent secretary to
Why?
carry.
Because the permanent secretary cannot work by him or
No,
herself.
no. The Appropriation Act represents the platform of the party in government. And the CEO is there to make sure that the Appropriation Act, which is to carry out the party in government promise to the people, and the CEO job was because the CEO clearly is with the government at the day. The permanent secretary is neutral. He serves any government come to power. The CEO was different. He was the political animal. That's the word. He was there to make sure
We've
that the party that wins the election carry out the manifesto. That is what it was for. Who passes the appropriation act? The legislature. The executive then carry it out, and the
we
CEO was there with the executive.
let
It's
us
not-
um let us move on and make we look upon the education system because the whole teacher thing now brings this to mind, the quality of education that our children are receiving. And there was an article that you forwarded to me where this gentleman, you call his name Horace Palacio, wrote that he believes that the big problem is not crime or corruption as much as ignorance. And ignorance stemming from the fact that our children are not receiving the quality of education that is necessary to mold them into good citizens. Am I correct in my assessment of that?
Yeah, in a
What
general way, all right.
in a
Generally,
general way?
yeah, in a general.
Um, I saw also somebody posted a clip from Nuri Akbar. I don't know if you remember this fellow. He's active in Los Angeles,
Yes,
and
I read
he
that.
was bemoaning the demise of the Belize Technical College. How did you stand on that matter? Um, because they turned it into a vocational school, I believe it was. What happened with Technical College?
I had a great admiration for technical college. I was a HJC boy, so to call it. And quickly speaking, I know the history of technical college. Technical college was for those who couldn't get in anywhere else. They can't get in the Western, they can't get in the HJC. So there were the people who they go in there when they can't get nowhere because they were at the bottom.
The Maud Williams of the day.
No, technical college became in this country challenging to the great Jesuit institutions of St. John's College. So let us look back at the men and women who made it such. So technical college was putting out some of the best minds this country was producing. And some of them were friends of mine. I was a SJC boy, but they put out some great people. Great. Now, when they decided that they will do away with it and give it name IT vet, I never had a problem with it because I thought that they were just changing a name. But a name by a rose by another name would still be a rose. The truth about it, any country, Mr. Chairman, who believed that their economy can be structured without industrialization, value added to agricultural product, which is 90% of the goods produced in this world. Technical college or the successor IT vet is very much needed in this country. Not to be merchandisers, not to distribute goods, but to create goods. So to me, IT vet should be placed highly in our educational system to produce the men and women who will be able to make ball bearings, who will be able to build. I don't want to go too far into say to build automobiles and planes, but to create things. Our economy, Mr. Chairman, is highly vulnerable to external shocks. And it's vulnerable because the two main commodities are the two main services. The hospitality industry represents 40% of the GDP of this country. But if America goes into a recession tomorrow, we will be in trouble. Now, what is the next imports for us? And I'm going a little further because I want to say this to you before we come to that question you're asking. The next product for us is agricultural products as raw material, highly volatile, highly vulnerable. The country needs to industrialize. We need to value add. So to me, IT vet should be given far more resources, maybe, to prepare us with a plan for the value added in this country and help to begin to springboard the industrialization.
You describe yourself as an SJC boy. I went to SJC myself. I didn't complete. I remember SJC had academic and industrial. Do we place too much emphasis on the academic values and not enough on the industrial aspect of education, which include creating the tailors, the lawyers, not the lawyers, the carpenters, the welders, the mechanics, those who work with their hands as opposed to those who work with their figures and their minds. Do we maybe, and is that why technical was so important to produce the makers, the industrial people?
No, I see it this way, Mr. Chairman. I think the Jesuits were successful in doing what they wanted to do. So I think SJC was successful as a institution of higher learning. It was. It produced some of the best minds in the fields that they wanted to produce. Now, technical was more technical oriented IT vet. And I think IT vet was very successful in what they set out to do. Though they had two different,
IT vet now is the modern name.
yeah,
And
from
you're saying they're successful in what they were trying to do?
yes, because they were, you see, the Jesuits started something different from technical. They were not interested. If you look at the history of the Jesuits in the world, wherever they were interested more in the kind of literacy of the arts and the maths. Yes, English, writing, reading, arithmetic. They
Well,
were
see how
good at
you're
that
gone. You see how you're gone to the Jesuits.
because they are
And
very
with the
important in the
talk
world.
about I know, but with the talk about technical and IT vet. Um, are you saying IT vet because IT vet is what we have now? What came about after technical went? Are you saying technical was successful or IT vet is successful?
I am saying the predecessor,
Right. The
technical, which
technical,
was right. Technical was
Belize Technical College.
right. It was state-owned institution.
Right.
St. John's College was privately owned by the Jesuits, so to speak, the Roman Catholics
But
then.
but 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 we know that, Joey.
Yes,
I'm
sir, but
saying,
I'm
why do you go off track? So
no, I am
stay
telling
on
you,
track like the PUP would say.
no, I am saying I'm staying on track. I am saying that what the state set out to do under the PUP government was successful in the creation of a technical school. It
Yes.
was successful.
Okay.
No, the PUP was not into SJC because that was separate. That was a Roman Catholic school. And they were successful in what they set out to do.
By creating all those PUPs to start with. Most of those PUPs, early PUPs, went to SGC, didn't
Mr.
they?
Chairman, you know what I wanted to read? Read about the Jesuits. And then you understand. The
What
Jesuits
are you
in
saying though, Joe? How
what
does
I'm
that
saying to
relate?
you. What I'm
How
saying
does
to you. You know why? Because you said it just now. You said it just now. You just said it.
What?
You said they were creating PUPs.
And yeah.
That's true. That's exactly what they were doing. They were creating politicians. That's what the judges do all over the world. They try to make kings. They control kings. They control leaders. That's what they want to do.
Okay, but how does that?
And you said it just now that they created PUPs.
Yes, yes,
They created
yes.
Charles Price. They were funded. They were with him.
But how you said that the pupils weren't into SJC, and I said to you it was SJC that created the PUP. Um, and you're saying yes, that's what they set out to do. But I don't know how. I need to read about the Jesuits to understand any of that because
Let me share some things with you there. These are facts. After church, Sunday morning, there were the Jesuits, some of them who were the leaders in this country because they were very smart and brilliant people in politics, in diplomacy. They were very good. They used to have meetings at certain business people homes on Sunday morning. And they were in fact supporting the committees, the People's Committee movement with George Price. They were. And that was a fact. Because that's what they were to do. They did what they were to do. They did a good job at it. All I was trying to tell you just now is that what we have today, a state-owned institution, ITVET, which was brought under the UB because it was separate, just like what they did with the nurses. The nurses were separate, but what they did, they amalgamated all of them under the University of Belize. So
was
now,
that a good idea? Did you approve of that?
yeah, I thought it was a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, bring everything under one umbrella. They are all state-owned.
Okay. But of course, the nurses' school was created by the Baron Bliss Fund, correct?
Yeah, that was separate as you rightly said, but it was government, except that they had it there at
And they
the
brought it under the
yeah, it was separate. It was not under the university. Because we never had a university then anyhow. The the nursery school was before the university.
how was the UB experiment worked out? Do you think it has produced the kind of results we were hoping for in its creation?
I don't think it is as successful as I have hoped it would have been. And I believe because of my age, I spanned many generations. But I knew the former principals and I was involved in UB a lot. The CUB was supposed to be the ferment for the society to develop the country through the plan for the future. And they were to have gone into research and development long ago. And I will speak now by calling a name, which I need to be careful because, again, but I remember Dr. Carl. And I think Dr. Carl was a man that was, in fact, moving that university in the right direction with research and development. In other words, he saw the university to be the center of our development for the country through education. But the idea he had, and I supported him, that the country must develop a plan for the future, and that the UB now was to provide the human resource to suit the plan. So therefore, the university was not to be training people without a plan. If the country said we're going to industrialize, if the country said we're going to do this, the UB then was to make sure it put out the human capital that would suit the plan for the country, and that the UB was to be the center for research for the country. That when we want to look at comparative advantage in the value add for agricultural product, UB was to do the research for us. So the R&D section of UB, I don't believe it is still there, but somehow, if you notice history, my brother, history sometimes may want the same thing, but the success of what we want comes because of who the leader was at that particular time.
Did it fall prey to the political system? Was that why did they move Cal? I mean, what happened there?
I wouldn't say fall prey to the political system. I believe what happens at time is that when we look at, and I think the guy Horace Palacio cited some of this in his book on ignorance and corruption. Sometimes the country puts out leaders at a particular time. We are a pretty young country. we are only 40 years old.
Mhm.
But even with that 40 years, and you add the years from 1950 to now, you can say, boy, we have what, 84 years of political activity. But if you look at the different leaders at each time over that period, it was the leaders who made a difference as to how the country was going to go. So when they said that a country is facing a leadership crisis, it is simply because at that particular time, who emerged as a leader, not just of the country, but it could be leaders in the schools, it could be leaders in the business sector, it could be leaders in the trade union, it could be leaders in the churches. So I think that UB still remains, I think, what should be at the center of our development. And I think it should drive more towards the research and development, while in fact try to build the human capital the country needs for the future.
Does IT vet now fall under UB also, or is that off on its own?
Yeah, I think it is. It's under
It
you.
should. Well, it should. No.
Yeah,
So then we have the different aspects of it now. Then we have the industrial and the academic and stuff like, well, the nurses. I imagine hospital would fall under the and well, that one tricky one, is that industrial or academic or both?
which one?
The like the hospital medical.
Well, that's healthcare. That's a healthcare service.
Yeah, so that's outside of both
Yeah.
of those purviews.
Well, what happened? Healthcare and education is what is needed to build human capital.
Hmm.
And human capital is the most valuable resource of our country. I know your island gold. Come make a fool with that. I know island gold. That
Thinking people, thinking people.
human capital.
Are we producing enough for that?
I don't think we can produce enough, but I think we could do with more. The right type
Um,
of human
the,
capital.
the the article by the gentleman, Mr. Palacio, suggested that we're not teaching our children how we should. That they're not getting the best out of the educational system. Do you agree with that?
I was trying to understand what he meant when he said it. That we were not getting. I think it was words like what you use. He did use. You know what? That was what I think he meant. That we were not getting the best,
Hmm.
and he may be right, because if we can get more out of it, then we are not getting the best. He may be doing good, but he's not doing the best for us. It means he tell you he could do better. No, what is the better we want? Me personally, when it comes to education, I believe yes, we need reading, writing, arithmetic. Yes, we need lawyers, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need engineers. But one of the areas of education that I think is needed is to make sure that man, being a three-dimension being, should have a balance as to how he's going to use that mind that he has. And I think the area that needs to be developed is the sense of values, the spiritual dimension of man. I think the schools, and that's a firm belief I hold, and I'm not talking about any particular religion right now. You could get your PhDs, but if your PhDs are self centered people, they will never be able to apply the knowledge they have to the benefit of the people at large. And those are things that I think are important for development. In other words, if you don't have a sense of value, of shared values, look at how advanced you are. You could just be another genius like Hitler, but your country in the end will fail if we
Can
don't have
you
a sense of value for each
can
other.
you teach that? Can you teach that?
Well, if you ask if you can teach it, I believe you can, because
Bec-
there's a difference between cheating and educating or learning. But if you take it simply by examples, you can teach by example.
Well, see, um, I'll give you an example here. Speaking of example, that I passed one of the kids in a neighborhood house the other day, and he's sitting on his veranda, and I said, we're gonna no school today, and the parent was nearby, and the parent say, "That's how he go. He don't want. He look like he don't want to go to school." And I think one of the things that we have to understand that education does is instill some discipline. And part of the discipline is what I've learned to. There's a word a gentleman once used: stick to itiveness. Stick to it, accomplish it, make it done. I think the parents need to do more in improving how the educational system works. In other words, your job is to make sure that child goes to school every day. Now the teacher will be there trying to ensure that they teach them things that can be useful and will help to develop them as strong human beings, productive human beings. But if they don't, if they're not good at school, sometime that day when you not go, that when the teacher puts that plus, what ties one part of one subject to the other part, and if you miss that, then you really not got a connection. I I don't know that if that we can put all the blame on this educational system, the schools, the government, none of that. But you have to be one, just one collective effort being done here, and the parents, because even like to Friday, when there will be no teachers in school, if you will, there'll be school in the day. That could be a day for some home learning where the parents can take some time. Now, those who have the time now, because many are working, but those who can do that, because many of the ones that you see don't pursue diligently the whole education process are the ones who can afford to spend some time imparting that knowledge to their children. So I don't know that you know that not an easy fix, Joe. That not an easy fix. Um,
It won't be easy, but what you said just now, G Mike, has been proven by science to be a biological fact. It's a fact of what you said. Why? Biologically, science has proven that the shaping of the child begins in the womb, right in the womb. The rubbing, the listening, the child comes out into the cradle. You begin to shape her in that cradle. A child without a motherly affection can die, you know. If a
mm,
child doesn't get, a child can die from lack of affection. And that's a biological scientific fact.
well, and die mentally even anyway, you know.
Now, I'm showing you the reality, the facts of human beings. Now, it is there in that early stage. You are beginning to shape that child. So, we have now today what we call preschools or beginners, which
Right.
one time that used to be done at home, but the
Mm-hmm.
parents have to be dealing with that. So some
Mm-hmm.
of them will enter kindergarten as it was then, maybe 5 years old before they enter. Now some of them can go into these preparatory schools at 3 years, 2 years, maybe 3 years. They're just there like daycare centers, they call them.
Correct.
Now, I have seen this model work in Cuba. I visited Cuba more than once, and I was impressed with the Cuban educational system, just like with their health system. They have these schools, state owned, of course, where children in there at the 2, 3 years old are taught to live like a family. They actually have the idea of a family where there is stove, there is this, there is that. Evidently, I mean, it's not about sex. It's about how you can begin to interact with each other at an early age. And you begin to develop an affection for being with each other. Because it's the socialization that makes the human being could apply the PhDs or the masters in the science and the other things for the benefit of humanity. So the Cubans, out of the educational system, felt that a human must first be taught. And the truth about it, it is right there, dear brothers and sisters, keeper. So when you get into the formal system continues to build on that. So in the early years, a child must be indoctrinated. It's not about The child has to be indoctrinated. Then the child will reach the age of reason. And when you reach that, the indoctrination comes to an end. It is from then he begin to reason. Then you have to be teaching him now things that he could reason with. And I think one of the points that the guy cited is that maybe we are lacking in some more critical thinking, for example. So he was not attacking whether the maths that we are teaching, the science that we are teaching are inadequate. I believe more is to instill in them a sense of values for being a part of a community that they must feel that they have an obligation to. And then it comes down to the politics of it, the burden of choice. If you're not sufficient, and that's why he did an article on ignorance. So
I,
I agree that we have to begin to shape the minds of our young people at that very early age.
but I even with sports, Joe, because I was listening to the coach of the national team talk about what he figured was wrong, and what was happening. And part of it is discipline. And I'm asking you, don't you think that the discipline that a person develops, because even you when you go to work, many people lose their jobs because they don't have the discipline of being there on time, doing what they're supposed to do while they're there, follow the rules of the workplace. So how important do you think discipline is, and how do we teach that, if not holistically, if not from home and in school, informal and formal education wise?
Discipline to me is something that will first in the beginning must be imposed. You have to impose discipline in the beginning because the child cannot think for itself. So you begin with the imposing of discipline. Now, you mentioned sports, and again, I want to come back to Cuba. The Cuban developed sport, not the simple for the purpose of just competing, but evidently that's a part. But they develop it because of the discipline it brings. One. Two, sports bring you resilience. That when you are down, you can get up and still win. In other words, it is telling you that failure is not the opposite of success, but failure is a part of your success. So it teaches you resilience. It teaches you humility. You are victorious. You're not going over there and the brab and the shake up. No, no. You're in victory, you are humble. So it teaches you humility. So when you look at the things that sports can instill in a human being, it is those things that a human beings need that he can then better apply the engineering knowledge, the knowledge of healthcare, whatever knowledge he have in his hands and whatnot. If he has that discipline, that resilience, that sense of community, that sense of belonging, collectivity, it is those things that make a good human capital out of a person. Because you could have your PhD, but what's the use of have it and you're so self-centered with it? You want it only for your own benefit. So that's
You,
part of your education, and I fully agree with you 100%.
there's a fellow there's a fellow named Pierre de Coubertin. He was the father of the modern day Olympics, when the Olympics went dormant after the whole Greek said Olympic, and he brought it back. And he made this one comment that has stood the test of time. He said, sports builds character. And
That's
I
right.
believe that is true. And I think that one integral part of education, and it must be incorporated into the whole school system from very early. Why we can't have a good national team? Because we wait till they're grown, bring them together with no discipline, no sense of value, as you would suggest, and then we expect them to go out there and compete with people who have this as a part of the infrastructure, who do the training, who make the sacrifice. Uh, Um, what what do we do? I mean, how just we just have to start at some point, and I think early in the educational system. That's how it's going to work. Moving on, SOE, state of emergency. Your new commissioner has his hands full. Um, Apparently, he's had a few murders. right? Rough initiation, boy. Are we gonna be able to cope with the absence of Chester Williams?
Well, I don't know. I really don't go cope. I mean, if there is a successor, I would expect that the successor is qualified to succeed. So I believe on the assumption that I would expect that yes, that is the issue facing the police force. And I said that to the former commissioner myself personally. I said sometimes I believe what we are doing, that we want law enforcement to do the things that we, the families and members of the committee, should be doing.
Hmm.
And I'm saying that because you spoke of the SOEs, the state of emergencies, and I am not against a state of emergency, but I think a state of emergency must have an end game. I don't want every now and then, too often, we have to have a state of emergency because it means that it is not working. So we have to ask ourselves why we want the state of emergency. Is it just to deal with the escalation of crime? It will not stop crime except you want to arrest and suppress the escalation. And as you take off the cover, it will boil over again. So to me, if you are using SOE, it must be used in the context of a measure to allow you to implement other measures to address the root cause. And that is why I felt that the guy who wrote that article came down to that very point. And I give him credit, he was very insightful in showing that what we are looking at are the symptoms of a disease, the corruption, the poverty, the crimes. Those are symptoms. And what the police might be trying to do is to suppress the symptoms, but he will never be able to address it. You've got to get to the root cause. If the symptom is manifesting itself through the skin peeling, and I get a dermatologist to look at the skin and he said, boy, put this ointment on it. For a moment, the skin will begin to look good. But then you have not addressed the root cause of that symptom. Until when you address the root cause, then you don't have to be putting the ailment. So the minute you put it on the skin, it's because you're addressing the root cause. So if we're going to use SOEs, we must have something in place as to what we're going to do to address the root cause.
No. Uh, what is the root cause? Because first of all, we have to identify what it is if we're going to address it. Correct? Um, Now the police do what they can do because when it gets to them, it's out of order. I mean, when the police has to be involved, it's because things are broken down. It breaks down because of the lack of proper education, proper discipline on the part of the child, proper supervision on the part of those who are responsible for bringing those children from baby to adult. Um, the, Many times we look to the police for solutions to the answers, but I don't know. What they're doing there with this SOE is what they can do, and they stem it. And yes, it boils over again because you're right. The root causes are there, but how do you get there? How do you
Well,
get?
Mr. Chairman, do you realize, and I'm not saying it, maybe it's coincidental, you know, much of this conversation me and you have been having is about the root cause. That's what we were doing, except that we were talking about the unions. And then, of course, we got involved with the CEOs and we got involved with IT vet, with education. It's right among that the root causes. So there is a book just out maybe the last few nights, Peak Human, and it was sent to me and I think I should read it. And Peak Human is written by a guy, Norberg. He's a prophet of anti-pessimism. He's a guardian of the golden ages and are marked by periods of spectacular cultural changes. And what it is saying, and it's coming right back, much of what have happened from the golden ages, yes, the Greeks gave us democracy, they gave us the rule of law. Others gave us other things in the world. No, after over 1,000 years, from the Dark Ages to the Age of Enlightenment, and still we are grappling with the root cause. So when that gentleman who wrote those articles, Horace Palacio, why I felt so good about what he wrote, I think he was looking at the root cause. And what is the root cause? When man transitioned from a state of nature into a state of a society, he did it because he wanted to protect, defend, and expand on what he saw as his natural rights. So
Eh,
when we move into the state of nature, the reality of the world today in a state of nature, in a state of a society, is that the state who collectively got the money from us and we give them the authority to do certain things. So we have to ask ourselves indeed, is the state doing what it was supposed to be doing in creating the enabling environment for the creation of wealth and a reasonable distribution? Not equal, because you will never have equal. So the root cause is how we are being governed.
Um, I, I see something else. Can parenting be taught? Can proper parenting be taught? And maybe we do we have a lack of proper parenting in our society?
I believe that humans generally lives in a cycle, and you could have a vicious cycle and you could have a virtuous cycle. You could have a virtuous cycle, and somewhere along the line, something intervened. And when that particular thing intervened, it's again coming back to the human biology. If the body becomes infected with a virus and the immune system is not strong enough to fight it, the virus will take over and it could be the end of you. Now, if the immune system is strong enough, could deal with that virus. But there are some viruses that infect man that don't care how strong the immune system, you have to fight it with what we call now today antibiotics. Now, let's take the society now.
Which is an interesting analogy, and I want to see how
Let's
you
take,
tie it
yeah,
in.
let's take the society now on a whole
Hmm.
and see it now as the human body.
Yes.
Now, what is the virus that shifts us from what was a virtual cycle? In my judgment, for the years I've been around, we were in a virtual cycle. And the irony of it is that we were in a virtual cycle during a period of colonialism. In other words, the period before 1981, the Belizean people who were primary school graduates mostly were far more law abiding, were far better parents in the sense of looking after their loved ones and their children.
Well, be careful where you're going with this, because are you suggesting that the colonial system made better Belizeans than our current independent system?
No, but I want to make it clear. Ask yourself, a human, let's use a man as a member of the human race. He wants to earn an income for he and his family.
Right.
Secondly, he wants to be able to find a job and he wants a living wage. If humans have that, it is likely that he will live a life of collectivity. But if you find that somewhere along the line, the man just cannot find a job, don't care what we say about men, my brother, men are human beings. And you take away their dignity and their self esteem when they can't look after their loved ones, when they can't look after their wife and their children.
But that's not so cut and dried as all that, Joe.
Well, what you mean by cut and dry? You have to tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I'm meaning that, the way you to put that there, as if you're suggesting that the man now because he can't make a living, um, there's some other fault, when the fault might be him who did not make the right choices, did not prepare himself in the right way, did not capitalize on whatever opportunities presented themselves. So might very well be the fault might be right there, as opposed to a system that did not provide him those opportunities. Okay. Right now, for instance, in Belize, last I heard, the employment figures weren't too bad, in particular with the um, coming on stream of call centers who are doing a lot of hiring, albeit I think that one false thing there, because you don't want to get to securing that. I think they're going to be taken over eventually by AI, and I need no persons as such employed in that. I hope that no time soon. But uh,
It's
um,
projected to be about in the next 10 years.
okay, so you have people doing now mostly employed if they want to. In fact, I have spoken to a number of technical people. At the time of people like contractors and people who do like welding, mechanic. The problem they have in getting employees to come and work and remain working, many times wanting more than the boss they make. Then they demand more than the man where they get in the job to make. So that's what I mean. It's not so cut and dry, because you can't really say this man is being denied his livelihood and his dignity, when in fact he's just not doing what is necessary to get that. And you get the point I'm trying to make. It's more than one way to look at that.
I will say this: it's not that cut and dry. It might be true, but I begin on the sociological belief and the biblical imperative. I will go now to a bit to the Bible. But I do believe that man is made inherently with the capacity to be good and to be bad. I think he does. Now, what brings out the good in man? He takes courage. Where does he get the courage? From the environment he grows up in. So, today, it is a biological fact, a scientific fact, that your genetics could predispose you to something negative, or it could predispose you to something positive. Like
Your genetics or the environment?
no, your genetics can predispose you to something negative,
You,
maybe a kidney problem, and
okay. Okay.
it can your genetics can predispose you to something positive like longevity. Now, it is a fact today that it is the environment one predetermine you. So, if you're born with a genetical inclination for a kidney problem, and just this morning I was speaking with a family where three in the family were affected by it, and the others weren't, especially the women. The fact was that the three men were heavy drinkers. The point I'm making now, if you're born predisposed genetically to a negative, your environment can help you to fight the negative and to survive. If you're born with the predisposition genetically to longevity, you may not necessarily live long because you abuse your body.
Oh, you get knocked down.
Well, it could be an accident, but the point I'm making, this is the reality of the human being. So therefore, if you're born in an environment which is conducive for what we believe is the cultural cycle, you are more likely to be in that kind of behavior. So if I take the twin children, the twin, they're born today, I put one of them, I don't know one call countries, but if you want to use Singapore or Rwanda, one of them, and you put the one of them there, and you put another one, one of them old country where crimes infested. Those twins born with the same genetics, identical twins, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, there will be two different children, although genetically equal. Because in the end, my brother, it's your environment. So therefore, the argument made by Pickman in his book that he's wrote, and I'm just reading the synopsis, he said the truth about it. We have the answers to the problems. He said, what we don't have is the willpower to do it.
Hmm. I hear you, and you say the environment, but and again, I believe there are too many factors for you to pinpoint any one particular thing and suggest it is that. Um, the environment, but the will, it boils right back down to that individual. What that individual can go deep and dig out to make himself a person. And that the part I think is necessary for us to teach the individual that it believe in yourself. It is there. You can do it. Just dig for it, make the necessary sacrifices because it requires sacrifices. It is never a smooth road, and you will meet obstacles, you will meet hurdles. Uh, you have to dig deep quite often. So I think more than the environment, because those two children that you speak of, the one that you sent to the crime infested place might very well turn out to be a better person than the one that you put in an environment that is plush and conducive to
Yeah, but you are dealing with an exception. We are not talking.
well, I then you might be we both
No,
you
no,
could
no,
say
no.
that of yours too, because that's what came to mind when I hear you saying that.
No,
That
if I put you in our ants nest, and I put another person in that ants nest, the ants will bite the two of you. They will bite the two of you.
okay, okay, I try to get the point.
The point is that if you are in an environment that is conducive for good behavior, let's put it simple, you are more likely to live with a good behavior. It don't mean you definitely will, but the majority will, because that's the reality of the human being. That's human beings. You can't change that. That's human beings.
Uh,
If you grow up in our environment where it is all negative, drugs, gambling, prostitution, what is expected of you? You could be the exception and never be a part of it. But it's more likely that you will, because that is the reality of a human being. You see what they talk about stone hard capitalism, and please, I don't want you to think that they got that far off. But I could show you how ideology too can affect human beings. And this is what Peakman is writing right now about capital. When you subordinate human beings to capital, it's like taking that dog and tying it to the wagon and tell her you got free will now. You got free choice. You either go with the wagon or we're going to pull you. That is not a free choice. And that is what stone hard capitalism can do to human beings. That's
I
what.
go ahead, go ahead. You got it. The point is, Joe. I think maybe this is what education was always meant to be,
That's right.
to
That's,
teach a person how to do what is necessary under whatever circumstances
that's
to
right.
be a good person.
That's right.
Um,
Wholesome.
and
Wholesome.
that good involves being successful, being happy, uh, um, and the bottom line is discipline. Be
That's right.
disciplined, and once you're disciplined, chances are you are gonna get what is necessary to live a good life, and that's
That's
the
right.
bottom line, no? To
That's right.
live a good life.
That's why
Listen,
when we talk of education, we must not just circumscribe it by the simple reading, writing, arithmetic. No, education is far more than that.
you mean reading, writing, arithmetic?
It's not just education. It's how to use reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Mm.
That is part of your education. And the education indeed is about human values, your sense of values.
I think a lot of time has been spent on developing an education system, and with good intention. Though I don't know that if it's working the way it was meant to work. Um, I think a big part of it that the teachers are they committed to it, or is it just a job? Are they gonna just work because they're getting a salary and maybe will get their increments, maybe will live themselves a comfortable, successful life by being able to meet their debts and whatnot? Or are they going to be committed to molding the next generation, the future of the country? That
Let's try to look at a mechanism, like let's say a pulley for pull water. And you have several gears. You got a small gear, a medium gear, a large gear, you got several gears. You make the smallest of the gear in that system. If that one gear break down, the whole system stop.
mm-hmm,
It will stop.
mm-hmm,
Now, I think that what is needed for us, most of all, is an education in how we are to be governed as a people. That when we now have to make the choice, the burden of choice, to make democracy being what the Greeks invented them to be, we can make then a choice that is best collectively for us. But if we continue the way we are making choices, simple along partisan lines, and for our personal benefit, that if my party win, I want to get one job, I want to get a contract, I want to get this. So what we are doing at the end of the day, we are creating a patronage system where each side, when it wins, will reward its followers. You cannot continue to have a state running the nation when patronage become the dominant concern. I said this morning to a group in a discussion, they are saying you seems to be an advocate for big government, because I do believe in free access to education and healthcare in our society. I think we should, or we can afford it. I say I am not here to support big government or small government. I want efficiency and effectiveness. But what I can say to you, but what is happening in countries, including Belize, there's too much big money taking over government. That is where the concern must be. And I don't want to single out no ethnic group, but who has the commanding heights of the distribution sector of this economy today? Who has it?
I
2% of the population. What
I
happened to
understand.
the rest? So
I
these are the
understand.
issues like that we have to be talking about. I am a PUP by virtue of the principles that I support of what define the purpose. But that don't mean I don't have a right to cite what I see wrong with the same government that I support. And that's what we have to learn to be, have the courage to stand up when we believe something is wrong and say it is wrong.
I totally understand the need for good governance, governance that does not rely on patronage or implement patronage. I believe, though, more important is the governance of self, the making yourself a good citizen. And if we have everybody working towards that end, the government will have to fall in line, because even citizens that have made themselves good citizens will be the ones that will go into government anyway. So everybody doing what they're supposed to do. We're out of time, Joe.
Yeah,
Not much more we could cover on that topic anyway.
right.
So thanks and thank you, Susan, for the compliment. She thinks that you did a good job tonight. We thank you, CY. We're going to see you again, same time, same place next week, Wednesdays again. Remember, have a wonderful week, people. CY, we're done here.
Mr. Chairman, before we go off,
Reid.
well,
There go one more. Huh?
I'm saying before we go off,
Uh,
I have had a lot of controversy with you, but I must tell you, I must respect you. I think you are a very good dumb thinker.
oh my goodness. Thank you very much, sir. And listen,
Yeah,
we're doing Mother's Day thing in the Charlie Burton Park on Sunday. We can't make Mother's Day go without doing anything for people. The area representative, Devin Daly, has agreed to give me a few prizes to give to the mothers. So the mothers are call it. We're doing anything for no. This Sunday, stop by the Charlie Burton Park. The boys and play Lee ball. Thanks a lot. See why? This time for real, we're done.
Creole, but we no normal. With a coffee and we royal. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Minor, tell you things you make you catch feeling. Your mere existence you want left to examine. Ebenezer me gone, me know fi feel dumpling. Believe woman sweet like you pumpkin. See me, but you don't know me. Confident, say that me bossy. Inquisitive, you call me nosy. Defend me rights, holla that me chancy. Me know this show no mercy, we don't take no back chat from nobody. You know have feel like me, but you must respect me. Tell this more. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Me cool and deadly. Machine gun Kelly. Machiavelli. Stay ready like Freddy. We have woman plenty. Woman the city, woman the country. You coulda act like you don't want believe me. Ask the white, that me bally. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Lot of sexy woman come out of the valley. Me like the way the body move when them the party. And a piece white and Alta Leslie. And the one name Gilda Courtney. Dano Jam, Sadamus Jelly from me Lille. Me know where to do with me till it. Me grow up as a bedroom bully. Bucket with vein full up them belly. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? I am a royal coffee, my style sticky like toffee. You coulda holla say me ugly, but a lone pretty girl stay to chase me. Royal coffee, and my style sticky like toffee. How could you call me ugly when a lone pretty girl stay to chase me? Reid with a Creole, but we no normal. With a coffee and we royal. I am a royal coffee. My style sticky. They say you never miss your water until your well run dry. And overspill milk, a big man is not supposed to cry. Well then, butter brim. If you're the woman, butter brim. Them could have charged her for sin. Butter brim. Straight cleaning. In search of fucking butter brim. Fully they made examine. Figure and lose such a sweet browning. Butter brim. Now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Anyways, one man lost is another man's gain. If you can't handle the traffic, then stay out the lane. Behind her beautiful smile, she was hiding her pain. You couldn't see the tears due to the falling rain. But with a woman emotions, son, you don't wanna play games. Then got certain moves that want put you to shame. And then you begging and you balling will all be in vain. When I bet she call the next man name. Remember all of the first time you meet it. You have to do that clutch much more for keep it. Candlelight dinner, wine and chocolate. Don't forget the roses, big man, you stalk it. You should have me walk her down to the pulpit and remove her sexy ass from off for the market. Your friends don't have no